Hello and welcome to my channel History with Hansa. This is Dr. Hansa Das with you. And if you have been following my channel, you will know that so far we have covered India's ancient history till the Vedic period in a number of videos. And today we are going to cover another important topic of ancient Indian history, which is the 6th century BC, in which we will talk about the 16 Mahajanapadas and ultimately the rise of Magad as a dominant power. Now, in the previous videos, we have seen how the tribal political organization of the Rigvedic phase was giving way to the territorial state towards the end of the Vedic period. But the territorial idea was gradually strengthened in the 6th century BC with the rise of large states and towns as their seats of power. So, we will be discussing how important territorial states came into existence in the 6th century BC and how they influenced the political milieu or the political condition of that period. And then we will talk about how Magad emerged as the most prominent, most powerful, and the most dominant of all the 16 Mahajanapadas. So let us start talking about the Mahajanapadas in detail. Before we move into the details of the political situation, before we move into the details of describing each of the 16 Mahajanapadas, it is important to know that from the 6th century BC onwards, the increasing use of iron, particularly in eastern UP and western Bihar, created conditions for the formation of large territorial states. Armed with iron weapons, the warrior class now played an important role. The new agricultural tools and implements enabled the peasants to produce far more food grains than they required for consumption. And the extra produce could be collected by the princes to meet their military and administrative needs. And the surplus could also be made available to the towns that had sprung up during this period, particularly 5th century BC. Now, these material advantages naturally enabled the people to remain on their land and also to expand at the cost of the neighboring areas. So, we find that the rise of large states with towns as their base of operations strengthened the territorial idea. And according to traditional literature, 16 large states or Mahajanapadas, each comprising several agricultural settlements, existed in India in the 6th century BC. Now, what is the source of these 16 Mahajanapadas? Basically, the Buddhist text Anguttara Nikaya, which is a part of the Sutta Pitaka, gives the following list of 16 Mahajanapadas in the time of the Buddha. So there is a map which you can see on this slide, which is about the Mahajanapadas during the 6th century BC. So the 16 Mahajanapadas were Kashi, Koshal, Ang, Magad, Vajji, Mal, Chedi, Vats, Kuru, Panchal, Matsya, Surasena, Asaka, Avanti, Gandhara, and Kamboj. Now you can pause the video for a little time and try to locate these 16 Mahajanapadas along with their capitals, which has been shown to you in this map given on this slide. Please pause the video for 2 minutes and look at the map. Try to locate these 16 Mahajanapadas. If you have done that, let us begin talking about these 16 Mahajanapadas separately and how they grew into prominence. So first we will talk about Kashi. Of the 16 Mahajanapadas, Kashi seems to have been very powerful in the beginning. It was located in and around the present day Varanasi district, and its capital Varanasi, it is referred to as the foremost city of India, which was situated on the confluence of the Ganges and the Gomti rivers and in the midst of fertile agricultural tracts. Kashi was famous for its cotton textiles and market for horses, and Kashi had emerged as a cloth manufacturing center and market by the time of the Buddha, by the time of this period. Now, several kings of Kashi are mentioned as having conquered Koshal and many other kingdoms. And we also know that all important religious traditions of ancient India were associated with Kashi. However, uh, towards the end or a little later, Kashi Mahajanpad had been annexed by Koshal, And Kashi also remained a cause of war between Magad and Koshal for a very long time. The second Mahajanpad war, important Mahajanpad was Koshal. The Mahajanpad of Koshal was bounded on the west by the river Gomti, and to its east flowed the river Sadanira, which separated it from the Videha Janpad. Probably in the early years of the 6th century BC, the area of Koshal was under the control of many smaller chiefships ruling from small towns. Towards the end of the 6th century BC, kings like Prasenjit and Vidudab managed to bring all other chieftains or chiefships under their control. Kushal also annexed the kingdom of Kashi in its territory, and the kings of Koshal seem to have favored both Brahmanism and Buddhism. In fact, King Prasenjit was a contemporary and friend of the Buddha. In the succeeding phases, Koshal proved to be one of the most formidable adversaries of the emergent Magadhan Empire. Third important Mahajanpad was Ang. Ang comprised the districts of Bhagalpur and Munger in Bihar, and Champa was the capital of Ang, which was located on the confluence of the rivers Champa and Ganga. Champa has been considered one of the six great cities in the 6th century BC, which was noted for its trade and commerce. And in the middle of the 6th century BC, we come to know that Ang was annexed by Magad. Excavations at Champa have also yielded NBPW, that is Northern Black Polished Ware pottery, in large numbers. Magad was the next important Mahajanpad, which ultimately grew to be the most important and established an empire. So Magad consisted of the areas around Patna and Gaya in South Bihar. Its capital was called Giribraja or Rajgre. Now Rajgre was a city protected by 5 hills, and the walls of Rajgre represent the earliest evidence of fortification in historical India. The capital was shifted to Patliputra somewhere in the 5th century BC. Now, in the Brahmanical texts, the Magadhans were considered people of mixed origin, and the Buddhist tradition also attaches great importance to this area. The Buddha achieved enlightenment in this area, and Rajgrave was one of his favorite haunts. Now, definitely, it was the most important and the most significant Mahajanpad of the period. And when we will talk about the rise of Magad later on, we will look into its political history in greater detail. And it was also significant that Magad's control over the trade routes of the Ganges, Gandak, and Soon rivers could provide it substantial revenues. Vajji. Vajji was centered around the Vaishali district of Bihar, and the Vajjis were located north of the Ganga. Unlike other Mahajanpadas, the Vajjis had a different kind of political organization, and the contemporary texts refer to them as Gan Sangha, a term which has been variously translated as a republic or an oligarchy. The Gand Sanghas of this period represented a rule not by an all powerful king, but a joint rule by a group of Kshatriya chiefs. So the Vajjis represented a confederacy of 8 clans, of whom the Videhas, Lichavis, and Natrikas were the most well known. The Videhas had their capital at Mithila, which has been identified with Janakpur, and the Lichavis was the most well known of the ancient Indian Gand Sanghas. It had its headquarters at Vaishali. Vaishali is said to have been a large and prosperous city. The Natrikas were another clan settled somewhere in the suburbs of Vaishali. The other members of the confederacy were the clans of the Ugras, Bhogas, etc. Vaishali seems to have been the metropolis of the entire confederacy, and this Mahajanpad, Vajji, was a major power in the 6th century BC. Then we have the next Mahajanpad, which was Malla. Mallas were another Kshatriya lineage referred to as Gand Sangha in ancient texts, and they seem to have had several branches, of which two had their headquarters in the towns of Pava and Kushinagar. Kushinagar has been identified with the site of Kasya in the Gorakhpur district of UP, and the Malla territories are said to have been located to the east and southeast of the territory of Shakyas. They were supposed to have been ruled by 500 chiefs. The Buddha died in the vicinity of Kushinagar, and the last rites of the Buddha were performed by the Mallas. Then we have Chedi. The Chedi territory roughly corresponds to the eastern parts of modern Bundelkhand. Shishupal, the famous enemy of Krishna, was a Chedi ruler, and its capital was Sotivati or Suktimati, probably located in the Banda district of Madhya Pradesh. So Chedi was also a significant Mahajanpad, and then we have the eighth Mahajanpad, which was called Vats. Vats, with its capital at Kushambi, was one of the most powerful principalities of the 6th century BC, and Koshambi has been identified with modern Kosam or the river Yamuna near Allahabad. The dramatist Bhash has immortalized one of the kings of the Vatsas named Udayan in his plays. So Udayan was the king. He has been immortalized in one of the plays of Bhash. Now, Vats probably had conflicts with other powerful kingdoms of this period, particularly Magad and Avanti. And Vats seems to have lost the ensuing struggle, as the subsequent texts do not give much importance to this Mahajanpad. Kuru. The kings of Kuru were supposed to belong to the family of Yudhishthir. Hastinapur, Indraprasth, Isukara are each mentioned as the capital of the Kurus having their own chiefs. We all know about the Kurus through the epic Mahabharata, and which relates the story of the war of succession between the Pandavas and the Kauravas. Then we have Panchala. Panchal was located in the Rohilkhand and parts of central Doab. The ancient texts refer to the presence of two lineages of Panchal, that is the northern Panchal and the southern Panchal. The northern Panchalas had their capital at Ahichatra, located in the Bareilly district of Uttar Pradesh, and the southern Panchalas had Kampilya as their uh, capital. Now, they seem to have been closely linked to the Kurus. Next one is Matsya. The Matsyas were located in the Jaipur, Bharatpur, Alwar region of Rajasthan, and their capital was at Viratnagar. This region was more suitable for cattle rearing, and that is why in the Mahabharata story, when the Kauravas attacked Virat, they took away cattle as booty. Obviously, Matsya could not compete with the powers that emerged on the basis of settled agriculture, and finally it was absorbed in the Magadhan Empire. Then we have Surasena. The Surasenas had their capital at Mathura on the bank of the river Yamuna, and in the Mahabharata and the Puranas, the ruling family of Mathura is referred to as Yadus. Now, they too had a Sangha form of government, and Mathura is said to have been located at the junction of two famous ancient Indian trade routes, that is the Uttar Path and the Dakshin Path. And that is why Mathura emerged as an important city because of its strategic location, which connected the famous Indian trade routes. Then we have Asaka. Asakas were inhabiting the banks of the river Godavari near modern Pathan in Maharashtra. Pathan has been identified with ancient Pratishthan, the capital of the Asakas. There are vague references to the kings of Asakas, but our information regarding this region at this stage is very limited. Avanti was one of the important Mahajanpadas. The core area of this kingdom corresponds to the Ujjain district of Madhya Pradesh, extending up to the river Narmada, and it had another important city Mahishmati, which is sometimes referred to as its capital. Several other small and big towns are also mentioned in the Avanti region, and located in a very fertile agricultural tract and controlling the trade coming from the south. This clan of the Yadus developed into a centralized monarchy. And in the 6th century BC, we have a powerful king named Pradyot who was ruling over Avanti, and he seems to have conquered Vats. Gandhar was the 15th Mahajanpad located between Kabul and Rawalpindi in northwestern province, and the capital was at Takshila, which was an important city where people from all the Janpads went for learning and trading. In the 6th century BC, Gandhar was ruled by a king named Pukusati, who was friendly with Bimbisar, and in the latter half of the 6th century BC, Gandhara seems to have been conquered by the Persians. Then we have Kamboj. Kamboj was located somewhere close to Gandhar, probably around the present day Poonch area, and it was probably a federation of agriculturists, swordsmen, traders, and warriors. So these were the 16 Mahajanapadas which flourished or which emerged in the 6th century BC. Now it is very important to know that out of these 16 Mahajanapadas, Magad emerged as the most prominent, and therefore the next portion of this video we will talk about how Magad rose into prominence, who were the important rulers of the Magadhan dynasty, and finally we will talk about the reasons why out of all the 16 Mahajanpadas, it was Magad which became the most prominent. So let us talk about the rise and growth of Magad. Now, all the 16 Mahajanpadas did not play the same role in contemporary politics. And Kashi, which was the most important at first, it lost its position to Koshal and Magad, and then a number of political developments took place. And finally, we see that in the 6th century BC, only four states, that is Kashi, Koshal, Magad, and the Vajjian Confederacy, remained important. They fought for political hegemony for a very long period of time, and eventually Magad emerged victorious and became the center of political activity in North India. Let us talk about the Magadhan dynasty. So, the first dynasty to rule over Magad is known as the Haryanka dynasty, of which the first ruler was Bimbisar, whose tenure is from 544 BCE to 492 BCE. Magad came into prominence under the leadership of Bimbisar of the Haryanka dynasty, who was also a contemporary of the Buddha. And according to the Buddhist chronicles, Bimbisar ruled for 52 years. As I've said, his tenure was from 544 to 492 BCE. He began a policy of conquest and aggression, based on which he acquired Ang and placed it under the viceroyalty of his son Ajatashatru at Champa. Now, Bimbisar also strengthened his position by marriage alliances, and he had three wives. Bimbisar's first wife was the daughter of the king of Koshal and the sister of Prasenjit. The Koshalan bride brought Bimbisar as dowry a Kashi village yielding a revenue of 1 lakh, uh, and that suggests that Bimbisar gained a lot from this marriage alliance. And Bimbisar, his second wife, was known as Chelana. Chelana was a Lichavi princess from Vaishali and also the mother of Ajatashatru. And Bimbisar's third wife was the daughter of the chief of the Madra clan of Punjab. So, marriage relations with the different princely families lent enormous diplomatic prestige and paved the way for the expansion of Magad westward and northward. And through his conquests and diplomacy, Bimbisar made Magad the dominant state in the 6th century BC. Now, after Bimbisar, the next ruler was Ajatashatru. Bimbisar was succeeded by his son Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru killed his father and seized the throne for himself. Ajatashatru's reign saw the high watermark of the Haryanka dynasty. He fought a number of wars, and throughout his reign, he pursued an aggressive policy of expansion. This provoked a combination of Kashi and Koshal against him, and there began a prolonged conflict between Magad and Koshal also. Eventually, the Koshalan king was compelled to submit by giving his daughter in marriage to Ajatashatru. Ajatashatru also made war against Vaishali despite the fact that his mother was a Lichavi princess, and he eventually ended the independence of the Lichavis by invading their territory and by defeating them in battle. Now, the Magadhan Empire was enlarged with the addition of Kashi and Vaishali. Ajatashatru had another stronger rival in the ruler of Avanti, and he continued his policy of aggression towards Avanti as well. Ajatashatru was succeeded by Udain, whose tenure is from 460 to 444 BCE. And Udain's reign is important because he is said to have built a fort at the confluence of the Ganges and Son at Patna. Udain was succeeded by weak kings Anuruddha Munda and Nagadasak. Now, as per the Sinhalese chronicles, the people of Magad revolted during the reign of Nagadasak and placed an Amatya or minister named Shishunag as king. And this led to the emergence of the second dynasty, which came to be known as the Shishunag dynasty. And Shishunag was the first ruler of this dynasty. As I said, he was an Amatya of he was an Amatya of Nagadasak, and he was the viceroy of Kashi before becoming the king of Magad. The capital was at Giribraja, which was later shifted to Vaishali. Shishunag annexed Avanti and brought an end to the long rivalry between Magad and Avanti. Uh, Now, after Shishunag, Kalashok came to the throne, who was the son of Shishunag, and Kalashok shifted the capital to Patliputra. An important achievement of this period is that he conducted the second Buddhist council at Vaishali. He is said to have been killed in a palace revolution that brought the Nanda dynasty to the throne. So, the Shishunaka dynasty ruled for half a century and finally gave way to the usurper Mahapadmananda, whose dynasty ruled until 321 BCE. So next we have the Nanda dynasty, which was founded by Mahapadmananda. According to some sources, Mahapadmananda, the founder of the dynasty, was the son of a Shudra mother. Other sources suggest other stories. In any case, it remains true that the Nandas were the first of a number of non-Kshatriya ruling dynasties. Mahapadmananda himself is described in the Puranas, later in Puranas, as the destroyer of all the Kshatriyas, and he is also credited with the final overthrow of the contemporary royal houses. They inherited a large kingdom of Magad, and the Nandas extended it to distant frontiers, and they are supposed to have possessed a vast army comprising 20,000 cavalry, 2 lakhs infantry, 2,000 chariots, and 3,000 elephants. Mahapadmananda, one of the sons of Mahapadmananda, was Dhanananda, who was the last Nanda ruler, and he inherited a large empire from his father. But he became unpopular with his subjects owing to an oppressive way of extorting taxes. And after him, the later Nandas proved to be weak and unpopular, and their rule in Magad was supplanted by that of the Mauryan dynasty, under which the Magadhan Empire reached the apex of glory. Now, let us look into the causes that led to Magad's success. Why? What were the reasons because of which, out of the 16 Mahajanapadas, it was Magad which gained prominence and became the most dominant power during this period? So, the first reason was enterprising and ambitious rulers. The formation of the largest state in India during this period was the work of several enterprising and ambitious rulers such as Bimbisar, Ajatashatru, and Mahapadmananda. and they employed all the means in their power to enlarge their kingdoms and to strengthen their states. Second reason was the strategic geographical location of Magad. The two capitals of Magad, the first one at Rajgir and the later one at Patliputra, they were situated at very strategic points. As I've already mentioned, Rajgir was surrounded by a group of five hills. So it was located on a very strategic position. Then, when the Magadhan princes shifted their capital from Rajgir to Patliputra, Patliputra also occupied a pivotal position which commanded communications on all sides. And then Magad also enjoyed an advantageous geographical position in the age of iron, because the richest iron deposits were situated not far from Rajgir, and that helped the Magadhan princes to equip themselves with effective weapons which were not available to their rivals. So then we have the abundance of timber with which boats could be easily manufactured, and they played an important role in promoting the advance of Magad. Similarly, environmental factors were also conducive to agriculture, which helped Magad. Then the next reason was the rise of towns and the use of metal money. The princes of Magad also benefited from the rise of towns and the use of metal money. A Pali text speaks of 20 towns in the age of the Buddha, and most of them were located in the mid Gangetic plains, and they contributed to trade and commerce in northeast India. This enabled the princes to levy tolls on the sale of commodities and accumulate wealth to pay and maintain their army. Then, when we talk about military organization, there was a special advantage which Magad enjoyed in military organization, and it was Magad which, for the first time, used elephants on a large scale in its war against the neighbors. And the eastern part of the country could supply elephants to the princes of Magad. And we learn from various sources that the Nandas maintained 6,000 elephants. And finally, the last reason was the unorthodox character of Magadhan society. It was a good mix of Aryan and non-Aryan peoples, and we also find that the universal aspect of Buddhism and Jainism found a congenial home in Magad, which widened the political outlook of the region, which contributed to make it the nucleus of a mighty empire. So, for all these reasons, Magad succeeded in defeating the other kingdoms and in founding the first empire in India. So this is the end of the entire story, entire history of the 6th century BC. I hope this video proves to be useful for you. If you have liked the video, please share it with others and also subscribe to my channel. Please look out for my upcoming videos on ancient Indian history. Thank you for watching. Thank you.